I'm glad to get the housekeeping out of the way because next, folks, we have an extraordinary director that you're going to want to go and just take notes fast and furious. This is a very successful director in Coastal. She was just privileged to be on the front of the Home Business Advertiser. And I posted that on our Coastal Facebook page. But I want to read this to you real quick before she starts because this is an incredible, dynamic director. Her name is Lynn. And just a little quick bio that was there. It says Lynn was enjoying a very successful real estate career in Chicago until 2008, when the unthinkable happened. The stock market and housing industry collapsed almost overnight. Lynn and her husband Crispin had a two-income family for many years while raising their two daughters, Grace and Emily. Suddenly, they were faced with the biggest crisis of their life. They were about to lose almost everything, including their home. Then, she found Coastal Vacations. Folks, Coastal has been the savior for many, many people. We're so proud to have Lynn on her leadership council. She is an amazing help with Coastal. She always intros Stephanie's calls on Wednesday. She's spoken at the last two conventions, and I am just excited to hear her again this time. She's the leader of her own personal team and Coastal as well. And let me tell you, folks, the people that are in her group are absolutely blessed that she's there. Lynn, if you're out there, go ahead and call is yours. Are you out there, Lynn? Lynn, you might have your phone muted yet. All right, give me just a second, folks. We may be having some technical problems. That sounds like Lynn. Is that you, Lynn? All right, we do have these challenges from time to time, folks. We're trying to get in touch with her right now. Sometimes phone lines go down. Sometimes the computer quits. That's one of the challenges of doing a seminar this way. Some of the benefits are most of you are probably sitting in your home right now, just like I am. And although we love to travel, this allows a lot of people from not only here in the United States, but all over the world to be here on our call, on our training, and get all the incredible information that we're going to share with you today.
Okay, she's back.
All right, Lynn, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am so sorry about that.
That is no problem.
Voltage.
No problem at all. Technical issues come up all the time. I've already introed you, and you're ready to go.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. And I did hear that introduction. That is right before I lost you. And I just want to thank you so much for all of those really kind words and sharing a little bit about my story. And I also want to tell everybody how much you give to this team. I am completely honored to be able to work with you and work with Peg and all of the things that you two do. People should know, least of which is doing an amazing job with our Facebook page and keeping everybody in the loop on everything that's going on. That is no small job. And you do so much behind the scenes, even through trials and tragedies in your own life. You and Peg are always there for us, and I'm so thankful. And I just want everybody to know how grateful that we are to have the both of you. So thank you so much. And wow, that conversation that we had going on with Al was crazy. I mean, talk about a man that has made it. He had other businesses, and then he came in here at Coastal 17 years ago, and came out of the gate running like a racehorse, has made so much money. And even though you could be sitting on an island, I don't know if anybody's on the webinar right now, but one of those chairs right there on the picture on your screen could have Al's name on it. He could be sitting right there and not worrying about another thing for the rest of his life, and even through generations after him, the kids and grandkids' lives. But he's not. He's here. He's here at every event. He helps put all of these live events together. You guys heard he mentioned that he's putting together the contract to go back to Disney. Now, I don't know if anybody's half the Disney lover as Al and I are, but I'll tell you what, I haven't told my kids yet that they are going to be dancing all afternoon with the prospect of getting to go to a Disney property and perhaps go back to the parks and all of that. So even if you're not a Disney fan, I highly recommend getting to that event when it's announced. And I know for sure that Peg and Michael let us know when it is, because they are the conduit to so much information. But the live events are so incredible. But I just want to say I'm honored to be here and to give this opportunity to everybody that might not be able to travel to an event. I know some people have to work. They can't get off of their day jobs yet, or we have disabled people on our team throughout the country even, and of course around the world, but even just dealing with what should seem like a shorter distance to go. And these disabled people cannot travel. Some of them can't even work, but yet they're able to create a living income and a wonderful lifestyle working at home around the challenges that they may have. So to be able to bring this event today to everybody on their own computers, on their own phone lines, and bring it to people for free. And I hope people aren't thinking that there's no value in today because it's free, because that would be a sad, sad, sad situation. There is huge value. And if just hearing what Al said in that first hour this morning is any indication on what we're going to be learning and going through the rest of this day and into the evening, then we are definitely in for a treat. And I just feel beyond honored to be here. So thanks so much. So I know Mike told you a little bit about me, but I just wanted to give you my, a real quick story with a little bit more in-depth information about who I am and how I came to be here. So prior to getting started in Coastal Vacations, I just want to let you know that we were sinking further and further and further in debt. I was a real estate agent, and my husband and I had definitely built a life based on two incomes. So when the market crashed, we held on so tightly, and we held on as long as we could, but in the end, we did lose everything. At the time, we didn't know what we were going to do. We were continuing just to drown in debt. We just felt like we were being buried alive by all the stress and all the pressure. And honestly, it's just a blessing from my Creator. I don't know what your belief is, that we weren't at each other's throats, because it was a really, really scary time. We had little to no hope financially, and we just saw that out there was absolutely no life preserver. I knew that I needed to find a way to help get us out of the situation, and I wanted desperately to stay home with my daughters, but I didn't know how I could do that. So I am Lynn from Illinois. I am a wife, and I'm a homeschool mom. I am a platinum director and a team leader on my personal team. I'm one of the leaders on my personal team. I'm also so fortunate to be a member of the Board of Directors Leadership Council. I definitely am a coastal vacation success story, and I'm an avid traveler. So how that all came to be is kind of a crazy story. Dealing with all of the loss and all of the stress and all of the things that we were going through as a family, I just knew one thing. And the only thing that I knew was that it couldn't keep going the way that it was going, but I didn't see any other way to make it good. And I don't know if you're on the computer right now, but those two daughters are the light of our lives. My husband and I are just beyond blessed by just what they bring to our family and our lives. And I just wanted to be there for them. I did not want for somebody else to raise my babies. They're not so much babies anymore, but for those of you that have even 40-year-old kids, they're always your babies. And I just knew that I needed to be a very strong presence in their life. So one day I was searching and searching, and I found Coastal Vacation, and I knew that I found something different. I was looking at it, and it definitely offered us a life of freedom. It brought that opportunity to us. That's what it was. That's what I was looking at as the offer. It was a chance to be able to not only stay home with my two beautiful daughters, but also let us be able to travel, to be able to enjoy our life and our time together with these unbelievable, crazy deals. And as we go through the day-to-day, if you're not familiar with what's in this package, it's absolutely going to blow you away. I knew when I first saw this that if there was some way that I could travel at that at those discounts, even if I was making $1 million, first of all, I was never going to go through what I went through before and spend all my money. I was going to be much more diligent with the small things. And to be able to save that money and to do all that, I just knew I'd found something special. But after everything that I'd been through, I also doubted my ability to be successful with the work-at-home business. So it was an interesting time. I also really understood at the time that I lacked the business skills and the leadership skills to be a successful entrepreneur. But Coastal helped me with that. So immediately after plugging into all the training and the support and the tools and the resources that's offered to all of us from our amazing board of directors here at Coastal Vacations, I began to believe that I could do it. And once all my systems were in place, it was time to delve into something that I knew I lacked, and that was personal development and leadership skills. So I would never have the story that I have, and my family story would look completely different without the skills that Coastal has brought me. So not only has it brought me the ability to vacation as often as we do, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's brought me a benefit that I didn't even know was available. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about leadership, about being a leader, and about personal development as a way to become a good leader. So there's different types of leaders, and some people are natural-born leaders. They just seem to be born with it. There are definitely amazing leaders who have been complete history changers. When I was talking with my daughter the other day, and she asked me, so what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm working on my talk. I'm working on my PowerPoint presentation and just getting ready to have this talk that I'm going to be doing at the Coastal International Convention in Super Saturday. And she said, well, Mom, what are you going to talk about? I said, well, I'm going to talk about leaders. And she said, well, Mom, you need to talk about George Washington. And I thought that was really, really cool that was the first person that came into her mind. One thing as a sidebar here is being a homeschool mom and having this travel package. We get to travel a lot, and one of the places that we've been to is over to Washington, D.C., and over to Virginia, to Mount Vernon, and to George Washington's house. So it's interesting what we learn by actually experiencing things versus reading about it in papers or on the textbooks or whatever. But she had such a great insight to George Washington. She says, Mom, he was an incredible leader. His people, he led his people right there in the trenches with them. He fought right alongside them. He was such a great motivator, but he was also right there by them. And his people, and after the war was over, his people and his troops, they loved him and admired him so much they wanted him to become king. But he was such a good leader. He knew that that was not for the good of all, that that's not why he was fighting. So he didn't let his ego get in the way. So, Mom, I really think you need to mention George Washington. So I thought, okay, we will. And I thought I'd bring up another leader that's somebody that's from a little more current time. And this is somebody that was such an amazing example of a leader. And if you don't know his story, I highly recommend you go learn his story, and not just, what you see in textbooks. I'm talking about Nelson Mandela. Now, what an incredible story that Nelson Mandela had. From prison in a country that was completely in civil unrest, he came out of prison with a mission and with a purpose. He was not bitter. He was not angry. He stood up like only a true leader can do. And he led by example. And if you guys haven't seen the movie Invictus, I'm not always for movies really telling the good story, but I highly recommend you go see that movie. That movie is so powerful. And we actually watched that movie. We've seen it more than once. My family and I, because we study leadership. If we want to be good in leadership, we really need to study. And one of those things that we need to study is leadership and leaders, people that have come before, and how did they do it, and how did they behave, what did they live through. And Nelson Mandela is just such an amazing example of a phenomenal leader. Just beyond phenomenal. So I keep talking about leader. What is leader? What is being a leader? What is leadership? What does that even mean? Well, today we're going to talk a little bit, as I mentioned, about leadership, and we're going to talk about the personality or the personal development that you need to become that leader, to have a good understanding of what leadership is, so that not only you can be a good leader, but so that you can raise good leaders in your organization and in your team. And where you're going to take it from there is just based on how much you really delve into your personal development and understand what it is to be a leader. So again, I ask, what does leadership look like to you? Well, it can mean different things. One example of a leader is a boss. So now there are some good bosses and there's not so good bosses and even some bad bosses. And I've got a little thing up on the screen here if you're on the webinar that can show the difference between what a stereotypical boss might look like and what a leader does. Now, the word boss. Think about what does that word even bring to mind? Even the word boss or bossy can have negative connotations. That doesn't mean that every boss, when we use that word as a title for somebody, is a negative thing. But there is a difference between a boss and a leader. Now, a good boss can be a good leader that creates huge successes, but that means he needs to get out of his boss mode and be a leader. And what does that look like? Well, as my daughter was mentioning, George Washington being such an amazing leader, he got in the trenches with people. A leader does not lack motivation. They get right in there with their people. They lead the people. They're not screaming from behind. They're up and they're pulling their people with them. And the other leader that we mentioned earlier was Nelson Mandela. What an incredible example of leadership from that standpoint, getting right there and really bringing the community together and not doing anything less than what he would expect his people to do. So if you've ever been in a situation where there's poor leadership, you might feel like you're a failure. Sometimes we've got leaders that are domineering. that are always screaming at you or yelling at you if you don't perform up to their expectations of who you are or what they expect from you. And with domineering leaders, it can oftentimes be a one-size-fits-all plan of leadership with absolutely no room for different personalities or abilities. It's kind of a put-up or shut-up situation. Some examples of bad leaders, especially in home business arena, are the ones who lead their team astray. The hour earlier, Al had mentioned it might not be that great of an idea to do more than one business. Just because you as a leader might feel capable to do it, your people are going to follow your lead. You're their leader. And so a poor leader is someone that might be pitching multiple opportunities to their people, taking their people off the focus of their goal. A poor leader is also someone who just cares about themselves and flaunting all their own successes and, even taking the credit for others' work. Have you ever worked a job where you worked so hard on some piece of something that needed to be turned in only to have the person in the hierarchy right above you take credit for it? Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about later in leadership is being able to be the best that you could be and not caring about who takes the credit. So if you cannot care who gets the credit, you'll be unusually successful. I have heard that so many times, and that was a lesson that I really had to learn. And I think that part of that was because of ungrateful people that were supposedly leading me, taking my thunder. And when I come into an environment that we have here at Coastal Vacations where everybody's lifting each other up and our leaders are getting the training and the tools that they need to really be good leaders, and when that comes up and knowing that something that I contributed has been for the betterment of everybody, I'm able to not worry about getting the credit. I don't need my name in lights. And that was a hard lesson, and I really think that stems from past leaders, and I use that term loosely, so we'll say past bosses in my life who just selfishly stole the credit and not for the greater good. So another example of a poor leader is somebody who gossips, somebody that's talking about people behind their back, belittling people, backstabbers, brown-nosers. They might be constantly putting down other programs or products or people, just attempting to make themselves feel better or look better. I definitely know that we don't have any of those types of people on this seminar this morning. But if we do, that's okay, because, I've been there. So probably not the worst of the worst, but definitely has some room to grow. And what a great and safe place to learn the lessons and grow. One of the things that I know is that a good leader has a desire to help others succeed. This desire to help others is a hallmark of successful people, and personal success is important, but the fastest way to win is to help others reach their goals. And helping others reach their goals will win you the reputation of being a great leader. So what does it take to become a good leader? One of my mentors is often heard saying, find someone who has what you want and do what they do. And that works really well when we're talking about the desire to become a great leader. There's a lot of great leaders here on our Coastal Freedom team. We talked about the board of directors. We have Al from Florida. What an incredible leader. What an incredible man. Incredible story. He's not only honorable, but he's not only successful, but he's so willing to help us be successful. And he's just so giving and right there in the trenches with us, helping us and cheering for us. And we have Mike and Peg who do so much for us. And Stephanie from Missouri and just the different members of the board of directors that just give their heart and soul. But what does that breed? That actually breeds people that come in under them or with them. I hate to use the word under them, so let's scratch that. But working with them, and they learn how to be that kind of leader just by watching them. They have huge influence. So good leaders are really able to influence others. They're always trying to improve themselves. They motivate others rather than berate others. And they're role models. And they demonstrate. And so I received a phone call yesterday from Teresa over at John DeLemmy's office. She was just calling to confirm that I was going to be on this webinar today. One of our amazing speakers this afternoon is John DeLemmy. If you guys have not had an opportunity to listen to him yet, you definitely need to be here this afternoon. But I looked at that. That phone call really spoke to me as I was putting the finishing touches on talking about leadership today. A leader at his organization demonstrated what it's like to be a leader. A leader showed me, he demonstrated to me what it's like to be a leader. So what John DeLemmy does, he leads his clients to success by not only telling them what to do, but also demonstrating what to do. He walks the walk. So let me tell you, after being in real estate for 15 years, I went to my share of seminars, and I listened to so many trainers. I'd go, they would do a great motivational speech, they'd speak, and I'd be so pumped up, and they'd market, and they would sell me their products, and then they would send me on their way. 98% of them I never heard from again, except for a few of them that were just trying to market to me again, to upgrade me, or invite me to another seminar to spend more money coming to their seminar and spend more money on their products when I get there. Well, John DeLemmy is one of those trainers and speakers who's definitely different. He's definitely motivational. He's hilarious. He'll make you laugh. He'll make you cry. His story is incredible. But he's also got some really meat and potatoes behind what he teaches. And, one thing that I noticed about John right away was that he even had several of the people that he coaches, his clients, that showed up at our last convention at the beautiful Gaylord Palms in Orlando, Florida last March. This was last spring. And these clients of his, they drove down from different distances just for the chance to be trained by him, but also to show him support. They shared their success stories with us of how their lives had changed since they started working as clients of Mr. DeLemmy's. So his success as a leader was very evident. So make sure you stick around today and catch what is sure to be some great training, not just from John, but from other people. And that brings us to a really good point. There's a lot of people, especially in this internet age, that call themselves leaders. You might be going through Facebook and you'll see all of these sponsored ads of all of these people marketing to you about how they can train you how to be a leader. Everybody thinks they are a coach nowadays. So one of the funny things that we talk about in academia world is the people that can't teach. Well, I'll tell you, that's the exact opposite of the way it can work here at Coastal, because we're just not set up for that. But there's a lot of people out there that claim to be coaches. So if you're following somebody, if you're learning from somebody, if you're getting trained from somebody, I advise you, I highly, highly recommend you look at the fruit. And we can look at the fruit right here in the levels of what we, the training and the people that are leaders and are being birthed out of Coastal Vacation. And you can see that the fruit's there. You can see that we obviously have some incredible leaders. And that was one thing that I saw with Mr. DeLemmy, was that you could see that his words speak. And he's definitely worth it. So there are many different types of leaders, and some of them really are coaches. So I want to tell you about an interesting coach. His name's John Wooden, or his name was John Wooden. We lost him not all that long ago, I guess about 5 years ago now. Now, he was an American basketball player, and he was a coach. And as the head coach of UCLA, he won 10 NCAA national championships in a 12-year period, including an unprecedented 7 in a row. So now, within this period, his teams also won a men's basketball record of 88 consecutive games. Wooden's streak of 7 consecutive NCAA championships is even more remarkable and impressive because to this day, no other coach or school has won the tournament more than 2 consecutive years. So again, we're talking about fruit. If you're going to listen to a leader, if you're going to be trained by somebody, make sure that they have the fruit behind their words. So one of the things that John Wooden, as a successful speaker and trainer post-basketball, he came up with these 5 steps in effective leadership. The first step was explanation. You need to tell the ones that you're coaching or you're training what they should know, and then you need to tell them how to do it. People need to have knowledge to take action. Next, you need to demonstrate. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but most people need to see how it's done. You need to walk the walk. You need to get in the trenches. You usually have to teach people visually or by example. Well, that's why John Wooden loved practice. A great idea for you to help lead and train your team is to host role-playing calls or on-the-job training calls for your team. So as you're growing up and learning your business, then you need to step into that leadership role, even before you think you're ready. It's kind of like a baptism by fire. Just go for it. Start, leading. If you're starting to build a team, do not leave the successful coaching that we have here at Coastal Vacations, but step out and work closely with your people. One thing that we do on our team is that we hold 2 hours of training for the newer people each week where we do a role-playing forum. We actually go through scripts and read it back and forth and critique each other and get to listen to others and get training on where they needed improvement and also step out ourselves. The biggest thing that you can do when you're going through training is actually to step out yourself. So we never quit that cycle. As leaders, we continue to step out and get in uncomfortable situations. But one of the things that John Wooden says, if you practice well, the games are going to take care of themselves. So that's what's really important to do. And we talked a little bit about this around this area, and it's initiation, and that is show me what can you do. So all teaching has to get out of the talking phase, out of the training phase, and actually into the action phase. You need to make sure you don't get stuck in practice mode. So if you're someone that uses a script, maybe you prospect by phone, you pick up the phone and you dial numbers and you're calling people that have requested information. So you can practice your script. But the next level is that you need to get out there and actually do some live dial. That's another form of practice. That's taking initiative, moving forward in your business, but it's also continuing with that practicing. It's the next level, and I'll tell you right now, do not be scared to pick up that phone because you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. You can definitely get better at what you're saying, and that's going to help your sales ratios without a doubt. But you're not going to get better at it unless you really step out and do it. So get out there, make a mess of it, have fun, because even as you're fumbling along, there's going to be people that are going to follow you. And there's going to be people that are going to be there no matter what you do. But if you don't do anything, guess what? There's not going to be anybody there. The next step in effective leadership that John Wooden talked about is number 4, and this is a really big one. This is correction. This is a really hard one for people with certain personalities to accept. People like me. I used to have such a hard time with correction. But this is where you can get in and tweak the process. Now, you can't tweak processes that haven't been done, but you can tweak and work on the process. So that goes back to getting out there, making the dials. Maybe your director can get on the phone and listen to you make some dials and help you tweak where you might sound like a telemarketer or where you might need some help here or there. But you need to be able to receive that correction. You're not going to be successful in your own business if you're not able to receive that correction. And if, as a leader, you're not able to deliver that correction correctly, you will constantly find yourself rejected. So one of my leaders often talks about how to do that correction. She calls it a correction sandwich. And a great way for correction is the 3-step process. So think about it with the bread and the meat. So the first slice of bread is edification. Complimenting them on something that they're doing right, complimenting them to make them feel better, and showing them where they are successful. And then the meat of the sandwich is showing them where they can tweak and work on the area that they need to work on. And don't forget that second piece of bread. This is not an open-faced sandwich. You need to close that sandwich up. And that's with the second slice of bread of edification and, again, encouragement. So that's a really great way as a leader to accomplish that step in correction. And the fourth, Brett, that was fourth. The fifth, and I believe one of the most important steps in effective leadership is accountability. You need to keep your people accountable to what you've shown them. You need to hold them accountable to the goals that they've shared with you. And you need to keep them accountable to what they've initiated, what they've already started, and to what you've helped them correct. So as your people are making corrections or you've given them that correction sandwich, you need to hold them accountable to having learned that lesson. And I'll tell you what, every single day, we all need to make sure we stay on course. So as a leader, it's also really important to have your own accountability partner. It's not effective, nor wise, nor recommended to have that accountability partner be somebody that you're training, because they don't need to see your weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. Even the highest up leadership in the world has leadership. There's only one person in my world that does not have any weaknesses, and it's not me. It's not you. So, but you need to keep up the person that's being trained by you. They need to admire you on a different level, that them seeing your weaknesses on a day-to-day basis is not advisable. One of the things that my mentor in this business always says to me is that problems and learning goes up. It never goes down, never goes sideways. But another thing that people, and a very natural thing for people to do, is to get off course. So you need to remember, as a leader, it's not only your responsibility to get people on course, but it's also a great leader's responsibility to keep them on course. And a lot of leaders do that. They get people on course, but they don't keep them there. So kind of like maybe what I experienced all those years and all of those seminars. I would leave the seminar on a Sunday and go to work on a Monday and feel like I was on a course, but really didn't know what to do, and nobody kept me on course. So when we're looking at these 5 steps, we can see how our coastal business model is designed to create great leaders. When you get started in your business, the model is set up that your first 2 sales are training sales. You work directly and very closely with your director, and those sales go up to your director. That's your director's payment for the training. Oh my goodness sakes, I cannot tell you how much money I really just wasted looking for somebody to train and coach me. But in this business, you're only being trained by somebody that's already had a level of success. And they're the expert. Now, after you've gotten your 2 training sales, the 3rd sale is yours, and you get to train that person. Now you're the leader. So you see how that continues to go. The most important thing about being a leader is doing the best that you can, following these steps, continuing to learn, because you're the expert, but many times an expert's only one step ahead of the person that they're leading. So you've got to stay moving forward, and you've got to keep leading that person, and don't doubt your ability to do it, because you can always come back to your director, and they'll walk you through exactly what needs to be done to be successful. And if your director isn't available to do that, Coastal is set up so that you can find out who your director's director was. You will find someone to help you. I just don't know of any other business that really works these 5 steps in effective leadership better than what we have here at Coastal. It's absolutely incredible. So now let's go on to the traits, character traits, and traits that a good leader has to have. They definitely need to be flexible and adaptable. So how you handle yourself in unexpected or uncomfortable situations is going to determine what type of leader you are at that moment. Now remember, you can always learn, you can always upgrade, but an effective leader is going to adapt to their new surroundings and situations and just really do their best to adjust to that. A leader is also a good communicator. As a leader, you have to listen a lot. You've got to be willing to work to understand the desires of others. A good leader asks a lot of questions, and they consider all the options, and they lead in the right direction. So many of us need training in this area. We need training to learn good communication skills. It definitely doesn't come naturally to a lot of us. Definitely did not come natural to me. Again, we talked about initiating things, and a leader takes initiative. A leader should work to be the motivator. He or she has to be a key element in planning and implementing new ideas, programs, policies, events. You've got to get out of your comfort zone and keep stepping up into that leadership role, taking initiative. Enthusiastic. A great trait of a good leader is enthusiasm. Now, that doesn't mean that every personality is going to be the same, show their enthusiasm the very same way. But no matter how it's shown, excitement's contagious. So when a leader is motivated and excited about the cause, the people are going to be more inclined to follow. Open-minded. As a leader, you definitely need to be open-minded. In this business, you are going to run into so many different people. You're going to be run into so many different personalities, so many cultural differences, so many different beliefs. But you've got to work to consider all the options when making a decision on anything that affects your business or anything that helps lead your people, because a strong leader is going to evaluate the input from all the interested parties and work for the betterment of the whole. Resourceful. An exceptional leader utilizes the resources that are available to them. So if I don't know the answer to something, I know that I need to go out and find it. A leader has to create access to information. So again, I'll point back to the leaders that we have here at Coastal Vacation. You talk about resources. Our Coastal Vacations business has so many incredible resources to help you come up with the answers. We have training calls. There's calls Monday through Thursday every single night, and the people that are hosting those calls are not getting paid for that. The board of directors are not getting paid for training people and being that resource. Every Wednesday afternoon, there's a product training call that's also recorded, and it's hosted. The recordings of that are archived on the official Coastal Vacations Facebook page. Stephanie from Missouri, our product director and board of directors member, does that call every single Wednesday. I've been on that call every single week for the last year, and I cannot tell you what I've learned. What a great resource that is. A great trait of a good leader is they're rewarding. That means that they're willing to recognize the efforts of others and reinforce those actions. Maybe as a leader, you go out and you have a contest and you have rewards for that. Whenever you're speaking on a team call, you need to edify and congratulate and recognize the actions of the people on your team. We all want to feel appreciated. We all want to feel like we're moving forward. And if we have somebody that we're following, then it means so much to us if they're rewarding us with words or maybe prizes in a contest or something, but just to be recognized means so much and can take the person that's being spoken to well or rewarded. It can take them to the next level, give them the confidence to move forward. Here's a big one here. Delegator. An exceptional leader realizes that he or she can't accomplish everything on their own. So as a leader, I know that the talents and interests of the people around me, I know what they are so that I can delegate my task accordingly. Especially here on with the board of directors, they do a lot of delegation for different things that they need to get done because there's no way they could do everything that they need to do in addition to running their own successful business. And well-educated. Knowledge is power. You need to be educated about your coastal vacations package. You need to work to be educated on the way that we use our package, how you can use it. The best way to do that, as Al mentioned, is get out there and use it. Now, if you're just starting your business and you don't you can't get away, you don't have the time, or maybe you haven't made the money yet, that's okay. There's so many stories and different travel testimonials. You definitely want to be here at the end of the evening tonight. I know Mike's going to be going over some testimonials from people and write those stories down. Learn about your package. Get on those Wednesday afternoon calls and educate yourself about your coastal vacations business. It's absolutely incredible. Here's a really, really important one. You need to be open to change. You've got to roll with the changes. You need to go back to proactive. This takes us back to proactive and reactive. A leader is going to take into account all the points of view and be willing to change. So if you're leading your team and something's not working, people aren't getting it, you're not moving forward, or maybe in your own prospecting, in your own business, you're not having the success that you once had, you need to be open to change. Do not be stuck in your own ego and just stay there. It's really, really important. So many of these things can only be realized through much and purposeful personal development. So the strategies for becoming a really great leader are usually not taught in school. We've talked about quite a few of those. I've even shared some instances where I had some problems with that. One thing I'll say about coastal vacations, it's definitely been a safe place to grow through all of my obstacles and roadblocks. But personal development and continuing education is really important, and I'm not talking about going back to school. There's certain ways that you can gain the skills that you need here at Coastal Vacation. And one of them is just to go to the Coastal Convention. Al was mentioning we typically have these 3 a year. We've got another one coming up here in March. I'm sure there'll be another one next summer. And as far as it's been going, there'll be another one next September. This particular webinar that we're doing today hasn't been done in I don't even know how many years. So plan ahead as part of your business expenses. You need to get to these seminars. You're going to meet people. You're going to be able to rub elbows with the millionaires in this business. It's not only going to raise your confidence level in our business, but you're going to get so much information that you just can't get. Many of you are here right now, and you're not going to be here for the next hour, or you've got to go run your kid to a soccer game, or when it's on these webinars, we're so blessed that we're able to do this, to get this information to people all over the world. but at the same time, you're not as focused as you would be if you were sitting face to face with the speaker. You know, having John DeLemme tell jokes or be silly in front of us is probably not going to be the same over the phone line. Although it's going to be amazing, I'm telling you, going to them in person is really important and getting to them as often as you can. But another great way is just to get on the coastal training calls. We've talked about those. I'm sure they'll be brought up again later on today, and there's places to find out where they are. One of them, a lot of information is right there on the Facebook page. It's www.facebook.com/coastal vacations. Now, there are some coastal people out there that might look like it's a coastal vacations. You want to make sure that you are on the official board of directors coastal vacations page. Mike, that is running this call today, does such an amazing job. Mike and Peggy, I'm sure his better half is very involved in it and getting all this information to us. So if you don't know where the schedule is for the coastal training calls, just, you know, going to that Facebook page is a great place to stay connected. So you need to go to other live events and training seminars. Again, you need to be really selective and check the fruit out for the people that you're going to allow mold your mind. But getting to live events can not only be fun, but it can really pump you up and get you moving in the right direction and re-energize you. Another way to be successful and to be a good leader is to hire a success coach. I know that John DeLemme is a great success coach for people, and Danny Johnson has had years and years. Both of those people have fruit behind all of their years of being successful coaches, and definitely worth getting, you know, working closely with them and listening to them, because they are not going to lead you astray. Joining a mastermind group, forming a mastermind group. If you don't know where one is, take that initiative as a leader and form it. Get together with other leaders in your group, or get together with other people in your community that you can network and mastermind together. Create goals, hold each other accountable. All of the things that successful leaders do, you can do that in a mastermind situation, a mastermind group situation. Most importantly is never, ever, ever stop learning. That's the one thing that I can tell you that leaders do. The difference between a good leader, the one that started out to be a good leader and fizzled out, and bad leaders, is that they just continue learning. Now, we've gone over different ways that you can continue learning, and you want to make sure that you're developing all the different areas in your life. And there's different ways to do that. There's all of the ways that we talked about earlier. You can use in your social life, your spiritual life, your emotional life, your mental life, and your physical life. The main thing is to continue to go out there, because it all comes together and forms you. And if you work on you and you become the best that you can be, people are going to be attracted to that, and you're going to lead an amazing life. I've got some recommended reading here, and for those of you that are not on the call, are not on the webinar, and you have your pen and paper out, I can tell you some stuff that's completely changed my life. Here's a couple of books here that never stop reading. One of the things that all successful people do is they continue to read. If you make it your goal even to only read 10 pages a day, that is not very much. That could take you 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That is worth you being a better spouse, a better parent, a better friend, a better kid, a child of somebody, a better member of society, and definitely a better leader and a more successful business person, which is why we're here today. But my first book that I definitely maybe not top of my list. I've kind of got them in the wrong order for the top of my list. But one of the best books out there is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That is such a powerful book, and if you haven't read it, you need to read it now. I have my 8-year-old and my 12-year-old read that book. It is a life-changing book. I just can't tell you that enough. One of the biggest failures that I did in my life was I was told to read that book probably 20 years ago, and I didn't read it till a couple of years ago. And you guys see that I made it to the cover of a magazine. My life has definitely changed a couple of years ago. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. But I just recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Another amazing, wonderful, motivating, incredible book is 365 Affirmations by John Delemy. What a great way to wake up in the morning, to read an affirmation that can change your life. Another great one that has been completely life-changing for me and my entire family is First Steps to Wealth by Danny Johnson. If you haven't read that, definitely got to do that. Developing the Leader Within You by John Maxwell. Wooden on leadership. We talked about John Wooden, Coach John Wooden today. And probably the one that's had the most influence on my personal life is the Bible. So that's what I meant by my recommended reading list is a little bit backwards here. I don't know what your beliefs are, so I'm not pushing mine on yours. But if you haven't read it yet and it's something that you do believe in, you need to read it cover to cover, because that is, for me, the best book ever written. But again, not to push my beliefs on you. If that's not your cup of tea, totally honor that. Not a problem. Now, as you're building your leadership abilities, there's places that we need you. And one of them is the Leadership Council here with Coastal Vocation. There are some qualifications. And if you're interested in working, we do need people to help. There's so much stuff that we need, and, take some of the headache off of, or not headache, but some of the stress and extra work off of our amazing leaders that we have here, the board of directors. One of the things that you need to do is be nominated. You do need to be nominated by a board of directors member, or not member, but a board of directors leader. You need to have at least 50 sales. You need to be at least a level 2 director. You need to be working exclusively with Coastal. So we're not going to be, trying to take some of the leadership on this team and take them over to some other kind of product or business. No, you need to be dedicated 100% to Coastal. You need to be thinking about hosting some conference calls. When the opportunity for that comes up, step up. If you're stepping into a leadership role, definitely be thinking about that. Think about hosting some regional events in your area. That's a lot of fun. Possibly even speaking at a Coastal event. And just different delegated tasks that come directly from the board of directors. And you'll be invited on some exclusive leadership calls. It is definitely not for everyone. So if it's something that you're interested in, then get with your director and put that on your list of goals. So that's pretty much what I've got for you today. I want to thank you so much for your time and your attention. I hope you got something out of what we went over. And stay tuned. Keep your pens and papers on. We have such an incredible seminar coming up for the rest of the day.